Okay, Professor Jim Schultz here from my Finance 311 students. As promised and as voted on by you all, I wanted to go ahead and go through number 20 from chapter 3 here and kind of do a kind of work out a video tutorial on how to solve this problem. And so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so all this information that you see on the left is going to be the information that's given in the problem. Alright, so from that information, the problem wants you to eventually find this times interest earned ratio, okay? Now from your reading, again, we didn't cover this in class, but from your reading, the times interest earned ratio is going to be your EBIT divided by your interest expense. Alright, and now you see that it turns out to be 4, but obviously we're going to work through how to get to that point. So these are the two inputs that you want and need to find. You need to find the EBIT and you need to find the interest expense, and you kind of end up doing them collectively or together. Now, from all this information, it may have been clear to you when you looked at this problem that you're going to need to set up a little miniature income statement, because that's essentially how you're going to find your EBIT, and so that's what you see right here. I'm simply taking the info that's given in the problem, sales, cost of goods sold, depreciation, and then sales less these two expenses is going to yield your EBIT. So easily enough, we're moving forward here, and we've got our numerator in the times interest earned. Now, the rest of this down here is blank, right? And so I'm looking for the interest expense, and I end up filling these two guys in down here from the work here on the right hand side. But the interest expense is what you're looking for next. Alright? Now, if you look back at the information you're given a retained earnings number, and you're given a dividends per share number, and you're also given a number of shares outstanding. So from that information, hopefully it was clear to you, or at least you kind of had an inkling that you're thinking, hey, maybe I can find net income from that info and then work my way up to interest expense, because that is essentially what you need to do at this point in the problem. So right here, we haven't seen this formula to this point. It's not a traditional formula per se. It's just something that we referenced, I think, on the first day of class, and that you have to remember that when a company generates net income, it can use that net income one of two ways. It can either retain it as earnings or pay it out as dividends. And so that's where this formula kind of comes into play. So then you take the retained earnings number that was given to you, you take your dividends per share and multiply by your number of shares, and that gives you the 60,000. You add those two together, and you have a net income number of 157,500. So that goes right here. So now what you need to do is start working up. Okay, and that brings me to this part of the problem. You essentially need to work from net income up to EBT. You can skip right over the taxes if you do it the way that I have over here on the right hand side. You could fill in the taxes if you want to, but it's not required, so obviously save yourself a step. You want to remember that, if you just pretend for a minute that you were moving top down, right, and you had the EBIT, how would you go from you had the EBT. How would you go from EBT down to net income? I don't have a pen here, so you'd have to almost write this down in front of you to see what I'm saying. But net income would be equal to EBT times 1 minus T. That would be the equation to move from EBT to net income. Alright? But we don't want to do that. We want to move from net income up to EBT. So rather than it being written as net income equals EBT times 1 minus T, I'm going to write EBT equals net income divided by 1 minus T, where T, of course, is going to be your tax rate in the problem. So that's how you get the 157,500 divided by 0.7. That is EBT equals net income divided by 1 minus T. Right, and again, I got there from kind of thinking about, all right, what would I do if I was moving top down, and understanding that I'm moving bottom up, so I need to do essentially the reverse of that. So that gives you the EBT of 225,000. So once you have the EBT of 225, and you know your EBIT was 300 that you found earlier in the problem, your interest expense is simply has to be the difference between these two numbers. And so then you plug it in here, you get your 4, and this is how to solve number 20 from chapter 3.